Known by his people as Salahuddin al-Ayubi, respected by Westerners as Saladin, Salahuddin was the first man to hold the title of the custodian of the two holy mosques. Founder of the Ayubi dynasty, he ruled the majority of the Arabian Peninsula, including Egypt, Syria, Mesopotamia, the Hejaz, Yemen, and parts of North Africa. Regarded as a true Muslim hero, he was immortalized for conquering Jerusalem and defeating the Crusaders. But more than his gallantry, heroism, and brilliance as a soldier, statesman, and military leader, it was his attributes as a tolerant, merciful, and just human being that won him the eternal respect, not only of his people, but even his enemies. In 1137, in the city of Tikrit on the west bank of the Tigris between Mosul and Baghdad, Salahuddin was born to a Sunni Muslim Kurdish family. Around the time of his birth, his father Najmuddin Ayub was banished from Tikrit and subsequently traveled to Mosul, then Syria, entering the service of Ahmad al-Din al-Zangi, the founder of the Zangid dynasty. Salahuddin grew up between Baalbek and Damascus. Fond of religious studies as a youngster, he learned the ways of statesmanship and military tactics under the mentorship of the Zangid emir Nur ad-Din and the tutelage of his uncle Asad ad-Din Shirkuh, who led expeditions into Egypt to prevent the fall of the Fatimids at the hand of the Crusaders. During this time, Salahuddin made a name for himself as a talented and courageous warrior, exemplified in his key role in the Battle of Babin, when Zangid forces defeated the Crusaders on the desert border of the Nile west of Giza. In 1169, at the age of 31, he was appointed both the commander of Syrian troops in Egypt and vizier of the Fatimid Caliph. Indeed, a quick rise to power, but this was only just the beginning of a legendary journey. In 1171, Salahuddin ousted the Fatimid Caliphate, who were Shia. This marked a return to Sunni leadership in Egypt. From 1174 until 1186, he pursued a goal of consolidating all the Muslim territories under him: Syria, northern Mesopotamia, Palestine, Egypt, and parts of North Africa. He was successful using a mix of skillful diplomacy backed by the swift and resolute use of military force. His reputation grew as a generous but firm leader, devoid of pretense, licentiousness, and cruelty. This helped him mend the deep rivalries that fragmented effective resistance to the crusading invaders. And for this, Muslim biographers have written about him as an embodiment of faith, who performed his 5 daily prayers every day, and who gave vast sums of his wealth in charity to the point where his own treasurers needed to intervene to ensure the leader had enough reserves. But it's his conquering of Jerusalem, acclaimed by many of his detractors as humane, that is the focus of his legacy, putting an end to the 88-year Crusader rule of the city. And this is how it happened. On July 4th, 1187, in the Battle of Hattin near Tiberias in northern Palestine, Salahuddin's army won a decisive victory against the Franks. Historians recount that Guy Louis, the then king of Jerusalem, was captured in the battle. A famous painting drawn by Jean Livien in the 17th century shows how Salahuddin treated the king with respect and dignity, offering him an ice sherbet. Reynald of Chatillon, the then Prince of Antioch, was also captured in the battle. He was famed for his frequent attacks on Muslim positions and raids against pilgrims. He was not shown the same hospitality and was executed by Salahuddin himself, according to many historical accounts. After the victory, Salahuddin's army was quickly able to overrun most of the other Crusader-ruled towns in the region, taking Accra, Toron, Beirut, Sidon, Nazareth, Caesarea, Nablus, and Jaffa and Ashkelon in only 3 months. On October 2nd, 1187, the holy city of Jerusalem came under Salahuddin's control. He requested Crusader forces to leave the city without inflicting harm to the Muslim inhabitants, and in return, guaranteed the safety and prosperity of the existing Christian community. Despite the past slaughter of Muslim inhabitants of Jerusalem in 1099 when the Crusaders overran the city, when Salahuddin entered Jerusalem, he did not loot, kill, or seek revenge, a phenomenon well documented by both Western and Arab historians. Now the only significant city still in Crusader hands was the coastal fortress of Tyre. This location would not only become a refuge for Frank forces, but the rallying point for the Third Crusade, which was triggered by Pope Gregory III, who called for a renewed holy war to recapture Jerusalem from Salahuddin. The 3 most powerful kings of the time responded: Frederick I Barbarossa, King of Germany, Philip II of France, and Richard the Lionheart of England. From 1189 to 1192, the 3 kings waged different battles across the Levant in the hope of returning back to Europe with a divine victory and wipe the shockwaves that Salahuddin had sent across Europe with his victories. But after a long and exhausting campaign, the Crusaders failed and managed to only capture Accra and Jaffa. A peace agreement was reached between Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. Despite his victories, Richard's army was exhausted and he desperately needed to return to England. The terms left Jerusalem under Muslim control, but allowed for safe passage to Christian pilgrims in addition to a coastal strip under Crusader control from Tyre to Jaffa. Salahuddin did not abuse his leverage and negotiated fairly, displaying once again his honor and mercy towards his enemies, earning him the respect of Richard and the entire Western world. The crusade had ultimately failed, and Salahuddin had kept the crown jewel, Jerusalem. Salahuddin died soon after he repelled the Third Crusade on March 4, 1193. He was only 55. After his death, his three sons took control of Cairo, Damascus, and Aleppo respectively. Salahuddin became one of the great exemplars of chivalry in 13th century European literature, and a cultural, political, and military icon in Arabic literature, marking him as one of the most powerful and noble leaders in Muslim history. The fact that he is appreciated for his diplomacy and leadership by many Western historians and by the Muslim world is a testament to his legacy, one that can even be marveled today with Hollywood depictions of him in movies like Kingdom of Heaven. But more than glorification, his biography today is relevant as an example of a leader who is uncompromising in his desire to rid Jerusalem and the Holy Lands from a brutish occupying force.